Okay, so welcome. So here's what we've been doing the last few weeks. On our Tuesdays, we've been having a top producer or guest speaker do a class. So it's something a little bit different. So instead of me constantly doing classes or Neil or something like that. So we had Nancy Dupre talk about consistency. We had Jennifer Matsumoto talk about farming. Last week, we had Stephen Thomas go over a bunch of market data. Some of what he said was in English. So that was exciting. He talks so fast sometimes, like, got it, right? Today we have Jack. Next week, Barry's going to do a class on how prospecting changed his business, all kinds of fun stuff. But today we have Mr. Jack Ma, who is from our Diamond Bar office. Now, statistically, in terms of production, he's one of the top agents in the state of California, which is very impressive because there's a lot of agents here. You know, if you were just one of the top agents in like North Dakota, it's like, okay, good. You know, but the guy knows what he's doing. He's made a lot of changes to his business over the last few years that have worked out really well. So when I approached him, I said, Jack, you have 100 things you can talk about. What do you want to talk about? And he came up with eliminating the options. Now, Mike talks about this all the time, that the biggest problem we have in real estate is we have too many options. We have too many options on who to call. We have too many options on what activities to do. We have too many options of where to be, and we have to eliminate the options. And that's a lot of what Jack's going to talk about today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over, or the unmute over. That's how we do it virtually, to Mr. Jack Ma. And Jack, the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Thank you, Robert, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for jumping on. So when Robert asked me to do this class online, what am I going to talk about? I mean, and especially when even after I decided on, I'm going to talk about the options, or actually the lack of. I mean, I'll talk them on bullet point stuff. You know, Mike Ferry talks about not having eliminated option. Robert talks about it. Neil talks about it. You know, they'll do a much better job than I do. So I thought about, you know what, maybe I'm just going to share some experience or some conversation that made an impact when a decision of eliminating option is made, and then that made an impact on my life. I actually I want to start with the quote that I always liked. I didn't know why. And then I found out it's probably something I lack, and then that's why I like that quote. The quote was that if you want to, it's from Julius Caesar. If you want to conquer the island, burn the boat. And I actually will give you guys an modified version a little bit, right? So like Robert said earlier, if you've been to a Mike Ferry event, or you've been any of Neil's or Robert's talk, you know, they all talk about the biggest pitfall for being a real estate agent is we're the independent contractor. We have the options of do things or not to do things, right? We have the option to make 0 contact a day, or we have the option to make 30 contacts a day. If we don't do any contact, nobody's gonna yell at me, or maybe Robert will. We even have the option when we wake up in the morning, we get to decide if we want to come to work or not. So it's all these options that's actually stopping us from moving forward.
Get down! It's a fire.
You could stay, Jack.
Okay, no fire, right? Yeah. So by eliminating, so what Mike and Neil and Robert really talked about when, you know, the pitfall of being an independent contractor is that we have too many options, and then that's really what stopped us from moving forward. And every time, since day one, when I heard that, it all made sense. But I came to ask myself, why wasn't I doing it? Why am I still giving myself so many options? You know, I'm making 25 contacts instead of 30. Working 190 days instead of 210 or 220 days. And I realized that having option was actually a pretty core belief of mine. I'm one of those person that if you're subscribed to something, you know, if you have you're given the option of pay annually, or pay monthly, I would probably choose the monthly one, even if it means that I'm paying a little bit more. And I did that because it's always in my head, what if there's something better out there? What if I don't like this service? Or what if I like the system? And that's why I always give myself a way out. How many of you have always been on the lookout for a better CRM system? Yeah, you can probably ask me, the pros and cons of all the CRM systems. I mean, I tried at least 5 different CRM systems. And the problem is that because I never committed to an annual pass. Yeah, I'm not annual pass. I never committed to annual subscription. So every time if I see something potentially be better, shining object, I jump on it. I never gave myself the commitment to actually really learn the system. And I came to realize that that really hurt my business, even on such small thing, a decision on jumping around CRM. Because every time if you switch a CRM, there's going to be data lost. Every time you switch CRM, you're going to be spending more time updating the new CRM from the old one. So these are time loss and opportunity loss. So for any of you that are out there that's always looking for a CRM, please don't do that anymore. Just stick to one and use it. And then it'll force you to figure out how to maximize the value of the CRM. So that's just one really small things that it occurred to me that how always having option hurt me. Another thing is that some of you may know I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and so one thing I heard from them that just reinforced my belief of having options is a good thing. So he always said that if you have one option, you really have no choice. If you have 2 options, then you have a dilemma. If you have 3 choices, now you have option. So that's another thing that really it kind of enforced me that having option may be a good thing. But having a conversation about that with Robert, it occurred to me that having option when you're in the early stage or you're doing your research stage of things, it's a good thing. But once you decided, you do want to eliminate the option. So remember the quote I talked about earlier, to conquer the island, eliminate the ship. So we came up with a new one. So choose your island carefully, and then to take the island, burn the boat. Yeah, so that's a modified version of a quote. Yeah, and I just gonna give a couple example of things that occurred to me, conversation I had, decision I made that really made an impact on my personal and professional life. The first one, it's gotta be so I've been with Neo for 5 or 6 years, and this probably was the most memorable conversation I had with him, or at least in my mind, the conversation go. So one day, he was in my office. We're talking about, I forgot what we're talking about. He started like, "You guys all said you guys want to make $1 million." I said, "Yeah," and he goes, I said, "That's bullshit." Oh, maybe he didn't say bullshit, but in my mind he did. I'm like, "How can you say that? Aren't you supposed to be supportive?" And he said, "Okay, so how much money did you make last year?" 200. Okay, so you made 200 last year. So this year at the end, December 31st, if your annual commission is 900,000, are you okay with that? I was like, "Sure." And then he goes on, "Are you okay with 800? Sure. 7, 6. The number keeps on going down, and I'm okay with it, right? And then it get to 400. Are you okay with 400? So I think that I wrote my goal was 300 or something like that year. So I'm like, "No." He's like, "Come on, be honest. Are you okay with 400? Never made $400,000 in my life. So yeah, I'm okay with 400. And he's like, "Are you okay with 300? And be honest." "Yes, I'm okay with 300. Okay. Are you okay with 200? And then that's when I said, "No, I'm not." So, and then he started telling me that's that's where the real number is. And the reason I'm okay with 200, I mean, well, I'm okay with not making 300, but I'm not okay with making 200 is because 200 is really what I need. I have to make $200,000 to sustain the lifestyle I have, to pay the bills I have, to go on the travel, to go on the dining experiences I have at that time. And so I had option of not making the more than 200,000. So that's the first time it really occurred to me that, oh, wow, not having an option can be a powerful thing. And then that's probably why you probably heard Mike Ferry always talk about, you want to make more money? Go buy a new home, go buy a new car, right? So you're eliminating, now you gotta make the payment. So you're essentially eliminating your option of not making more money. So that's one of the most aha moment I had about why we're not doing the business we want to do, because we have the option of not doing that much. And the second was an example so this was 2016. This is a deliberate choice of a choice I made to eliminate the option. So I first went to a Mike Ferry seminar in 2016, and everything he said makes tons of sense. So it was at that moment I really just decided, you know what, I really want to learn the system. Oh, let me go back a little bit. So at that time, my business was about 90% buyer, or 80% buyer, 20% seller. And so I wanted to be a listing agent, and everything Mike said makes sense. So it was at that moment I decided, you know what, that makes sense. I'm gonna do it. So I don't know if it's just recommended or not, but I actually decided to not make any, I decided not to work with buyer. I mean, well, I'll still get people call me, hey, I want to see this, I want to go buy, can we go? But I stopped my Zillow purchases. I basically stopped any of activity that may generate a buyer sell. So essentially I pushed myself against the wall, and now I have no choice. If I don't make any progress in learning the Mike Ferry system, if I don't make any progress in learning how to talk to people on the phone, I would starve to death. I have no option. I eliminate the option of getting business other than trying to use the Mike Ferry system way. And I actually, prior to meeting Mike, I hate talking on the phone. So it was a big change for me, but I forced myself to do that so that I can really learn the system. So I feel like I kind of pick up the system, a little bit faster, but just by I really eliminate the system. Now my business is probably 65 to 70% seller, and so that really just by eliminating option of doing the Mike Ferry way, or not working with less buyer, it really made me, I made big progress in terms of, working with seller, and then being a little bit more fluent with the Mike Ferry system. So that's I guess another aha when I look back in what I've done. That was a big moment in my career. The next story I want to share, it's a more on the personal side. It's also and of course it's also about eliminating the option, but it wasn't a decision I made like the last one where I just decided that something I'm gonna not do this. So this was back in 2018. So when my daughter was almost born, and for me, I always had to believe that I'm pretty good at making money. I can always find more, and I can always make more money. I won't have a problem with that. And then the problem with that is, I never save anything, because I always my mindset was always that, what, I'll start saving money when I make more money. I'm gonna use I was paycheck to paycheck. I was living pretty comfortably, but I was paycheck to paycheck. And one day my wife actually came to me and say, Jack, can we talk? I was like, uh-oh. when conversations start with that, that's never good. So I was like, okay, what is it? And she started off by, I don't feel financially secure. When I heard that, that was like a big slap on my face, right? I'm pretty proud, and I want to take care of my family, take care of my loved ones. And when she said that, that was like, oh my God, the sky was falling. And I'm like, why? With the baby on the way, I don't think we have a lot of savings, and I don't feel secure. And it was at that moment I knew that not having a strong saving is no longer an option. And because what's the alternative? I may get into marriage problem, and then we just got married for 1 year. That's gonna be a pretty bad look, having marriage problem after a couple months or a year. So at that time, so from that day on, I made sure that I save a good chunk of my commission into a saving account. And I'm honestly, I'm glad I did that, because with the market shifting, having that cushion allowed us to do other things, allowed us to have that safety net too. So I basically eliminate the option of having the choice. Do I spend the money, not save it? Or do I just save the money? And the last one, I'm just gonna give you, I don't want to bore you guys to death, with all these stories, but the last one is a new choice I made. What I've done to eliminate some of the option in my business. So I ever since the start with the Mike Ferry, working the Mike Ferry system, I always prospected, not consistently. It started with I'll prospect a couple of days a week, and then it became that I'll prospect every day I work. But even then, the number of contacts was never where I wanted to be. Every year, beginning of the year, setting contacts. Oh, I'm gonna make 30 contacts each day. They're always short. After 5 years, they're always short. It could be, I think during COVID, sometimes I'm averaging about 20 contacts. So they were like, 33% short. It was, I wasn't consistent. I was making the call, I was making the contact, but I wasn't consistent. And it was at the last retreat. It's the same stuff I heard all the time, but somehow I heard differently. I think it was Brian Burnett was talking about how he makes 40 contacts a day. And then at that time I had an aha moment. Maybe that's why they're doing so much more business, because I'm not willing to do the extra work that they've been doing. Maybe I'll give this making 40 contact a shot. I don't think I ever made 40 contacts for more than 3 days in a row. And so I decided, you know what, that's what I'm gonna do. So I started to think, okay, I never averaged more than 32 contacts a day. How am I going to all of a sudden jump to 40? So I gotta make sure I do it. So accountability really is a way to eliminate the option too. So I reach out to an agent that I respect. He does tons of the business. And I asked him, hey, can you hold me accountable to 40 contacts a day? And he say, sure. And what happens if you don't? So I'm like, so for every day I don't make 40, on days I work, I don't make 40 contacts, and I will pay you $100. Based on my track record in the past, I probably would have been broke if I had to. And but I didn't want to, number one, didn't want to pay $100 every day, and I didn't want him to look down on me. So as a result, since the retreat, I think I'm on my day 70 of making 40 contacts a day. So now it's, making the 40, it's even, right now it's not even about, oh, well, I don't want to pay $100. Now it's, that meaning change a little bit. Now it's like, oh, I want to get my 40 contact day streak going, go, keep it going. Yeah. So yeah, that's just the material, the stories I want to share. I'm not really sharing these to impress you, but really, I hope this story, it's really personal. Hopefully this will help you guys connect some of the dots between the bullet point, quote unquote bullet point, like Robert, Neil, or Mike talk about, and how this transition made in me and what I've done, how that has improved my life, how that has improved my business. Yeah, so yeah, I guess I don't have 45 minutes of a talk, Robert. So you gotta fill in the rest.
I can do that. I have the knack for filling in time. So Jack, first of all, thanks for sharing. And I like the fact that you shared a lot of personal stories, because I think everyone here can relate to some of those stories, of things like that. So we'll open it up for Q&A here for Jack. You can either put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. But before we do that, so a couple things I wrote down here, Jack. When you said one of the options you eliminated was you were only going to work with sellers. So you weren't going to work with buyers anymore. So talk a little bit more about that, because was that like a cold turkey where, hey, today's the day, it's cut off? Did you transition into it? And because now you're about 70% sellers. So what are the standards if you are going to work with a buyer? What does a buyer what kind of standard does it need to meet?
So back then it was kind of a cold turkey thing. It was a decision to me that made a lot of sense. So I just jump on it. I think I tend to put myself in that position quite often. But like I said earlier, every time I did that, there's it's kind of risky, to be honest. But that really, the risk actually left me with no choice. So it was a cold turkey at that time, when I started using the Mike Ferry system. So not sure if I recommend that, but so right now, I just basically standard to working with the buyer. We had conversation about I'll only work with 2 buyers at a time. So in order for them to qualify, I don't want to sound egotistic, but they gotta be motivated. Their standard. They had to be my seller, or they had to be my seller looking to purchase, or there's standard that they had to meet before they're in my 2 buyer slot.
So was there a fear though of how okay, maybe try to word this in a different way. How did you know that you were okay giving up buyers?
I don't.
Because I think the fear, Jack, because we, like you said, I talk about it, Neil talks about it, Mike talks about it, of, you have to make a commitment to work with sellers and things like that, but it's easier to get buyer leads, right?
Yes, for sure.
So how were you okay just saying, you know what, I'm good? Like, did you have enough listings where you felt comfortable, or was it really just blind faith that, you know what, if I stop working with the buyers, I'll have more time to go get listings, and I think that's going to be fine?
I think it's blind faith or being too optimistic.
Okay.
Actually, I have I think I'll another story. Sorry, I just kind of add this on the spot. This was at a Tony Robbins event. This exercise actually helped me learn goal setting process and having blind faith. And actually it ties in a little bit with not having a choice. So you guys probably all heard, at Tony Robbins event, you do the firewalk, right? So this wasn't that. This was an event at Fiji, and then you actually had to climb up a 50-foot pole, and then you had to leap off that, try to grab onto a trapeze. I mean, there's safety harnesses and everything, so it's safe, right? I didn't even like roller coaster. For me, when I heard that we're gonna do that exercise, I'm like, no way. I am already at Fiji. I'm already at the event. So my options start to get less and less. And then, I can still not do it. I don't think they can force me to, but then what if I'm the only one that's not doing it? I'm going to look very bad. So my options start to shrink as we get closer to that activity day. And then on that day, my wife and I were on a different team. And then she actually ended up doing the exercise first. And then she did it. I'm like, oh my God, now I have no option. Even she did it. I really gotta do it. And I have no choice. So I mean it's so the pole is 50 foot and there's pegs on there so you can climb up. I'm like, so I devised a plan, right? Okay, I'm gonna climb that pole. I'm not gonna look down. I'm just gonna take my if it means slow, it's okay. So I climbed it and I stood on the top of the pole and I took a leap of faith. I don't even know if I can grab it. I just I had to trust the harness. I had to trust, basically. So that exercise actually taught me what you set a goal, right? My goal is grab that trapeze, and then you laid out an action plan. I'm gonna not look down when I climb up. I'm gonna watch my footing. So you have, and then but at the end, I still needed that leap of faith because I could just stood on top of that pole and then not jump because it's pretty darn high. So I guess I am good at taking that leap of faith. It's a long version of your question.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, when the wife does it, you're
no option.
No, the option has been eliminated for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. Good stuff. All right. So I have more stuff, but I want to open it up for our other people. So if you have questions for Jack, unmute yourself or put it in the chat box. One of them, Jack, came in from Patty, says, regarding your prospecting calls, have you eliminated options regarding who should I call today, etc., and how did you do that? Is it a set order?
It's a set order. I mean, I've been through that. Oh, who should I call? Should I call this? Should I call that? And then not committing and then just switching up every day. And then, just based on my mood, I call different people. Now it's pretty standard. So I start with the hot somebody. So these are the people that, I know how to sell or they talked about selling or buying. So these are the expired, these are the FISBOs, or these are the leads I have that, they said, you know what, call me back. I still do want to sell and whatnot. So I started with that. And so that's the hot somebody, and then not in particular order, but it's these people. So the second group I would call it's my database past client, and then center of influence. And then the third group I call is what I call prospects. So these are the people that I met that I added them to my database. But I don't group them as my past clients. So I have two databases. I have database B. I have three databases. I have database A. Those are the VIP, client that did multiple business, buy and sell multiple times, or that's been giving me referrals. I have a database B. So that's my true past client and center of influence, people I know on a personal level. And these are other people that, hey, this is Jack with Century 21. They go like, oh, hey, what's up, Jack? Right? Or hey, this is Jack. They know me. And database C is the ones that I prospected, where I met at the door or at an open house. So the goal was to, so that's the third group. And the fourth group right now, it's people I don't know. It could be right now I'm calling just listed, just sold. It could be absentee owner. So the goal is basically to go from people I don't know. I'm going to move them to my prospect, people that kind of know me or starting to know me. And then I'm going to move them to COI that peeps me, and then move them to past client, that people that did business with me, and then move them to a VIP that's willing to refer me multiple business. So those are the sequence on people who I call.
There you go. Good.
Hey, Jack, can I ask something?
Yes.
Of course.
Hey, Jack, thanks for being on, man. Appreciate it. As far as calling goes, and I know that do you spend I'm assuming you spend maybe 3 to 4 hours trying to get to that 40 contacts, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that you call your database, which are the one that you met before, so the contacts number is higher.
Yes.
But if you were to try to call the people you never met, I'm talking about cold calls, mm-hmm. Cold people. How much time do you spend on that? And what are you doing to say getting more contacts? Because I think my trouble is getting contacts. Like, trying to work 40 contacts. So calling people, you call, leave messages, things like that, those are easy. When you're trying to reach cold calls, for example, trying to get up to that number, what are you doing? And just your input on that. Thanks.
So what I'm doing, well, I mean, you probably, if you're calling expire, you probably get what, 4 to 6 contacts an hour. But even if you're just calling just listed, just a neighborhood phone canvassing, you should be able to get 10 an hour. So it kind of averages out. So I'm doing like maybe 3.5 hours for 40 contacts. And it's pretty consistent. So it always kind of averages out. And that's why you don't want to, if you get stuck on a source and then nobody's answering, maybe you should jump on it, just switch it up a little bit, and then and then you want to have a different sources. And one other thing I recently did is that I thought that was really cool, because I mean, I'm getting my 40 contacts in 3.5 hours every day, but my goal was actually to get that done in the morning, and I never been able to do that. And then my coach confronted me, right? What are you doing? I'm like, what did I do? Why? I was distracted. And then the coach, what kind of distraction you have? Do you start on time? Sometimes, most of the times. And then what are you doing when you don't? So I came to the office pretty early. So sometimes before 8 o'clock, if I don't have a role play that day, I would just kind of check out a couple of things on the internet. And then sometimes because of that, I started late. During prospecting, sometimes I start checking my email and, I got to take care of this. And that just distracted me from prospecting. So I found you guys can check it out. It's a Google Chrome extension. So you add it to Google Chrome, and then it's called Block Site. So between 8 to 12, I found this last week. I set it so that and then you can put 8 to 12, you can set your own schedule, and then you can block out the sites that you go on. So I block everything. Even my Gmail, it has been blocked. So that really also helped with my efficiency too. So I think you can, just a list is you can even with the one line dialer, I'm using only one line. I'm not using 3 lines. I can still make about, at least 8 to 12 an hour. So that's how I ever, with the just listed, with the database call. And I made a good chunk of the database call too. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good question. All right. Other questions for Jack? So Jack, while they're coming up with one, I have another one. I want to go back to, I know I'm harping on this whole thing about giving up buyers to generate listings. Did it work right away? So when you said, because you said earlier, you kind of went cold turkey that, I'm going to focus on generating listings. What did it happen right away where the listings were coming immediately, or was it a gradual thing that you started generating more listings when you were focused on that?
It was gradual. It was tough that first year. I think my business was down 50% that year. I was dipping into my saving. I was having problem paying my bills. And I guess that ties back to that blind faith thing. I, just know it, that because I believe if the concept, the system, it makes so much common sense. And I really don't think I'm stupid. So I figure if it's common, there's so much common sense, and the fact that I'm not stupid, if I keep on working it, I gotta at least be above average, right? So that's my mentality. Got it.
So the blind faith thing really, that's what really kept you going. What was that? Because a lot of people, one, would not eliminate the buyers because it's like, well, I got buyer leads and that's a paycheck. And then when it wasn't working at the beginning, you were down 50%. A lot of people would have said, okay, this isn't working, I'm going back. You just kept doing the work and kept grinding and said, this is going to pay off.
Yeah, I think Mike has said that, people are driven by different things. right? There's the recognition. Some people are driven by lifestyle or money, and then there's people driven by security. I'm driven by recognition. So to me, money is money and security. I have to dip into my saving are not big on my list. I think that made it a little bit easier for me. If I'm security driven, then yeah, that blind faith may not have worked.
So I just want to clarify something though. Is Noel driven by recognition or are you making money?
Security. Yeah. And then the cool
Honey,
part is,
I'm number 15 in the state of California. I don't care. What's our bank account say?
yeah. And then I shared with you that story, right? When I found this website. Someone was asking, it's called Block Site. So just search Block Site, Google Chrome extension, and you should find it. I went home. I was excited because I figured out I was able to bulletproof another part of my business, right? I can eliminate some distraction from the prospects. So I went home. I talked to my wife in the Noel. I'm like, hey, I found this website. It's really cool. I get to block. I have a conversation with Ramona that what's my distraction in the morning? Why am I not finishing the contact in the morning? This and that. And I found this website. It's gonna block my website. And then this is what she said. Mike Ferry style. Do you think you can browse on the internet if you have a real job? It sounded different when my wife, your wife is telling you this versus Mike Ferry is telling you this.
Yeah. If you think, if you think Mike Ferry's tough, sometimes your own house can really call you out. Good.
Yeah, I see a comment on, just want to touch on that. Rosalinda said that what drives us, right? So the three things, recognition, for me, that actually made a big impact too, because my business really, made the big jump after. So I found all three. For myself, it's recognition driven. So I like to prove that I can do things. I think that's where the blind faith comes from. And since Noel, because of Noel, she's driven by security. So because I want her to feel secure, now that security becomes a much bigger thing for me. And then since having Amelia, my daughter, because I want her to have the best life she can, and then now the lifestyle become important things for me. So all of a sudden, not directly internally, but both internally, externally, I actually got all three drives, or all three drives.
There you go.
Can I ask you another question, Jack?
Of course.
Thank you. So what is your schedule like with balance with family and kids now,
Again,
do you have a start and stop time and certain days that you don't want to work weekends and things like that to be able to still to have that life and achieve the goal that you set?
It kind of changes. So during the COVID, when my daughter was born, my schedule, it was a choice, right? Okay, let me go back. Right now, it's, I'm in the office I get to the office between around 6:45 to 7:15. I usually have role play at 7:30. I start calling at 8. Mm-hmm. I try to end my day at 4 because I have to pick up my daughter at 5. So that's also not having choice. My wife already, she's the one that dropped her off. So I want to participate. I want to help out. So I have to pick her up. So I kind of have no option but have a finish time by 5.
By 4, right?
And by 4, so get home and then I'll pick her up. And I haven't been really working weekends, and that was a choice. I want to spend the time with her. But recently I started to add more evening call and weekend calls. Just because the market changed. I want to make sure that if the market's down 30%, I want to at least bump up my contacts by at least 30%.
Correct.
And then this another thing is what Neil told me that we leave messages, right? And when we leave message on the database, and then if we stop there, then we're actually having contact-itis. We never had a conversation. It was just a contact. We left a message. Our job is done. It's a contact. but there we missed out the value of having that conversation in person live and asking a referral and answering their questions. So I've been basically adding evening, like an hour Tuesday and Thursday, and then weekend calls. That I didn't count into my content. I'm basically calling the hot somebody or these trying to get a hold of the database again.
Right, right. So how are you scheduling your time to go on appointments? Do you have like a certain day and time that you set specifically for appointments only?
So usually
you know,
I have I between so any type of appointment it could be, first of all I define my appointment as so if it's a seller preview, buyer with expire or FISBO, if it's a seller Popeye, or listing appointment, these are all appointments to me, right?
right.
And buyers, if it's a first time showing, that's a new appointment. If it's a buyer consultation, that's appointment. So between those, I usually get to set about on average, probably 3 appointments a week. So I usually have
That's pretty
like
good.
3 to 4, every day blocked out for that. And then that's if I've been using
3
that
and
for
4
catching
o'clock,
up.
you mean? 3 and 4
Yeah,
o'clock.
every day. 3 to 4
Okay.
o'clock every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so for appointments, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Good question. Good question. One more thing that I want to point out on eliminating the options that Jack didn't talk about, but I think is a really important thing, is on days because this was a few years back, Jack, for you, but very relevant for a lot of people. We put in our calendar appointment, say 3 o'clock. The question, I don't want anyone to answer, but here's the question that you have to ask yourself, that conversation we had with Jack a couple of years ago is, if you don't have an appointment at 3 o'clock, what do you do? A lot of people would just go home. All right, well, I don't have an appointment, so, I'll just go home. By doing that, you are essentially rewarding yourself for not having an appointment. It's, well, I don't have an appointment. I get to go home early. I get to go see my wife early. I get to go see my daughter early. This is great. You're rewarded for not having an appointment. Really, it should be, well, I have an appointment slot set up here 3 o'clock on Wednesdays. It's 3 o'clock. I don't have an appointment today. I need to prospect. I need to preview. I need to practice. I need to do something. I have to still work a full day. You don't get to go home early because there's no appointment in that slot. Jack, that was a big thing a few years ago, if you remember, right?
Yeah, and then it was still a problem, for me, right? But because I don't get to finish all the contacts in the morning, so during those times, instead of making extra contacts, or I am catching up, and which is not what I wanted to do, or there may be quote unquote projects I want to look at during that time. But I wasn't able to because I'm playing catch up on the contacts, and then that's also one of the reason I wanted to, I found that web blocker, so I can be better, more efficient, and just finish up my contacts.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I think on average that website, that blocker, it probably at least three times. It was just subconscious. Like I'm not even thinking about going on a specific website. It's just you see the website bar. And then I just type something in there. So at least 3 times a day, it blocked me. It blocks out the distractions.
It'd be really cool is if it could like zap you through the computer. Like you go to type, so it's like, oh, wait a second, okay, never mind. I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, actually, when they block it, there's a landing page, right? I think you can put Neo or your face or Mike's picture on there. I think I that's a good idea. I may do that.
There's the motivation. There's motivation. If you click on this, Robert's face will pop up on your computer, and you do.
Maybe like, oh shit.
Oh, that's great. Jack Ma, I love you. You are an incredible human being and an incredible real estate agent. And I know I've already said this prior to you doing this, but since you've now completed this, thank you. Thank you, and thank you. So everyone, give me oh yes, Fred. Go ahead, Fred.
Jack, could you tell me
Fred.
how long ago did you subdivide your database into the 3 categories or 4 categories? And how big is each section of that database?
That's a great question. I think it started before COVID, I started. So this comes from a Tony Robbins event for me too. A couple of things happened for me. So at a Tony Robbins event, it was business mastery, and then one of the exercises, what's your exit plan? So it was there that I decided, you know what? Number one, I want to, well, there's a couple of things, but first things, I want to build a big database of people who trust me, like me, and willing to do business with me. So this is how my building of a database, the seed was planted there. And then soon after, I heard Greg Harrelson, on one of his YouTube talking about building a database, getting emails. So I adopted what he said, which I thought was brilliant. Robert's, used that as well, or Robert has his own version, hey, before I let you go, I'm not sure if you knew this, a lot of neighbors do ask me to keep them updated with what's going on in the community and the market in general. So I do this periodically. So what's a good email address I can make sure you get the same important update that you're all getting? So I've been building my, so if they give me a email, now they're in my database C, quote unquote C, or I call them prospect. So, and then, so that's how this all started. I think it started in 2018 or 19. And then I've been getting more and more come list me. I want to buy from my database C. And then, but the key is I call them. So I call my database B. So that's a PCCOI every 2 months. I do call them database C, the prospect, every 3 months. And then they get a weekly email. Everyone gets a weekly email from me. Database B gets a quarterly mailer. The database C, they don't get a mailer. So they haven't earned the mailer yet. they haven't earned the right to go into my database B first. But I'm still constantly, if a couple of times, I talk to them, hey, Jack, what's up? They know me now, then I can move them up. And if, because sometimes you talk to someone and then the next, so this is why Mike doesn't want to, I think this is my interpretation of why Mike doesn't want us to add everyone in your database, just because if you talk them day zero, today, if you call them the next time in 90 days, they don't remember you, right? You become a cold call. But if you're able to do something that doesn't involve a lot of time, that make sure they remember you, when you call them 90 days later, they will remember. So that's why the weekly emails comes in play. So, 90 days, that's what, 12 weeks? Even if they don't see all 12 emails, they may see a couple of them. So when you call them next time, 90 days, they may not be it's not as cold call as it is. So that's my system of churning this database.
That's excellent. What's the open rate on there? And what about the unsubscribe rate with those people in that C part of the database?
I think my data, I haven't checked the unsubscribe rate, but I'm okay if I know they are unsubscribed. And then if I talk to them, they are rude, right? And I'll give them 3 chances. Right? I'll make a note, strike 1. They may be having a bad day, or they may not make the link that whoever is calling is the guy that's been sending them the email. So I give them 3 chances. If there's 3 strike, then I'll take them out. I think so. I don't know the unsubscribe rate, which I probably should, but my open rate is about 40%.
Okay. No, I like the
excellent
3 strike rule, because sometimes once they're rude to you once, I've had the practice of yanking them right out because I don't want to talk to that person. But the truth is, you don't know what the hell they're doing on the other end of the line. You could have caught them at their worst moment of the year. So to have that 3 strike rule, which I'm making a note of right now, I think that's pretty important, because you may lose a lot of leads just by cutting them out because of that one-time rudeness versus the 3 strike rule. That's good. Thank you.
I'm sure you have experience where you call someone, maybe not a COI database, and then after a couple exchanges, and then they realize, oh, you're Fred. Oh, I know. That's what I'm trying to eliminate too. I don't want to just delete them just because they never make that connection.
Right. I think it's very important for everybody listening to not get discouraged, even when you call your A group and they blow you off. Hey, I'm arresting somebody right now, which I've had happen, to my cop clients. I'm arresting somebody right now, but I can't talk. And you kind of, geez, do I call them back 60 days from now or 90 days from now? And that's something that's up here that I have to eliminate and just call them again. Call them again. But if they happen 3 times, then you know what? You can say F off too. So, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, everybody, do me a favor, unmute yourself, give this man a round of applause that he deserves.
Good job, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know,
Thanks, Jack.
this is not easy. Calling people like Jack and Jennifer and Nancy up here to say, hey, can you do a class? I mean, doing a listing presentation is great, but this is not easy to do. So, you know, for him to put together a class and come up and present is a huge thing. And so, Jack, you did a fantastic job. You know, pretty soon they're going to want you to replace me, but luckily I know you won't do that to me. So, so we're good there. All right, but you're the man, buddy. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And for everyone out there, eliminate the options. Okay, eliminate the options. I want to call these people, be great at this. As Jack said, you know, pick your island and then burn the ship. So I want to pick this source and now I'm going to go for it. Oh, I'm going to do a little bit of this. I'm going to do a little bit of that. Just, you know what? I want to be this type of agent. I want to work this area. Go get it. Jennifer Matsumoto last week talked about, 2 weeks ago, talked about farming. There were other agents doing business in her farm area. She said, I don't care. I pick that area. I'm burning the ship. I'm going to get that area. Here she is 8 years later, making $500,000 a year on that area. So you just have to commit to it. Jack, you're the man, buddy. I love you. You're the best.